Hey everybody, it's me, Wolfenstorm, aka Lisa, coming at you live. Wow, it has been a while, longer than a while. It seems like forever since I've done a recording. As you can see from behind me, I am in a new space, a space of my very own, and that kind of explains why I've been a little bit out of the fandom for the last couple of months, um, because I was in the middle of a move, a major move, moving from one city to another. So I actually moved back in June, but I didn't want to do any video recording until I had my own private space because I was staying temporarily with someone until I could find a place of my own. And I really, for once wanted to be able to do a video in my own space. Before this, I was living with my parents, and I was having to do my videos from my bedroom, and that was not comfortable, being on the bed and the laptop constantly up and down. And then when I'm here visiting my kid's dad, I would usually have to do it on his kitchen table, which was covered with stuff, and the background was not that great, and yeah, and the lighting was poor. But here we are, my own apartment. Oh my goodness, my own apartment with my own little room just for me to do videos. Brand new desk, brand new chair, all of it. You can see behind me, I even have this big poster. It came in one of the Doctor Who magazines. It's all the Target novels so far that have been published. There's a back of it too. All the Target novels have been published, recreating the Doctor's episodes from the beginning all the way till now. There's going to be some more posters going on the side. I've got some coming in the mail here, so you'll definitely see some stuff to fill this space out more. So before I go any further, the usual housekeeping rules apply. Please help me keep on keeping on with this channel. Like, subscribe, right y'all, and smash that bell so that you can get notifications when there's a new video on my channel. Also, please, if you check the description, you will see my social media areas on the interwebs, Twitter and Patreon. If you want to get early edition videos, like if you want to see the videos before I put them up on YouTube, please go to Patreon, become a Patreon member, help support me. Even if you only donate $1, you'll still get some cool, nifty, neato things for helping me out there, including the chance to see these videos before they go up on YouTube. And also the opportunity to have your name listed as a thank you for your support. So, now that the housekeeping is out the way, news. Other than my moving news, yeah, I kind of stayed out of fandom because not because anything bad was happening. It's actually been quite quiet ever since Revolution of the Daleks. There just wasn't much to talk about, honestly, other than filming for Series 3, lack thereof, what they're doing, because, what the code, the stuff, restrictions, up and down. We haven't seen very much behind the scenes having to do with season 3, other than we know that they are filming. We've seen some behind the scenes of the TARDIS in action, the Doctor herself, Yaz, and new companion Dan. That's as much as we can say. Oh, and we know for a fact that there's going to be a Sontaran there in some shape or form, and the Weeping Angels in some way, shape, or form. That's all we really know. But the bigger news, bigger news, which just came out recently, this past, I would say, week or so, that has pretty much broken fandom, is the fact that BBC has announced officially, it is not a rumor, it is not bullshit, it's not something that somebody heard or somebody who works there or has an inroad might have heard some shit. No, this is actual announced by BBC that Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker both have come out and said that when Series 13 is over, and then they're going to have a series of short specials because series 13 is only 8 episodes long, and then they're gonna have like 2 specials leading in, and the last special is gonna be the New Year special. She's going to regenerate in the New Year special leading into the 14th Doctor. Thank Jesus. Oh, yes. That's the word that every Doctor Who fan has been waiting to hear. However, we are still being cautious because even with Chibnall gone and Jodie Whittaker gone, the fact still remains that BBC is still in charge of overall production. They own the Doctor Who franchise. So ultimately, even though an executive producer is in charge, what the BBC wants, the BBC gets. Now, I have heard some things online from some different YouTube content creators who are in the fandom, who seem to have some very good contacts from within BBC. Now, I cannot give credence or truth to these rumors. I don't know if it will come about, but I can tell you that for certain people, content creators who have gone online and published these rumors, they might not be 100% accurate, but they do have like 90% authenticity. Like 90% of what they say does usually come to fruition in some way, shape, or form when it comes to the show. So what we have heard so far is that BBC has taken a step back and really, really looked at the show as a whole. The BBC controller, Dave, has done some polling, some soul searching, some talking to higher level executives, and they have come to the conclusion that their shit stinks. What they should have known all along, that the show is terrible and that it cannot stand on the shoulders of just the small smattering of dedicated. I'm not going to say that the fans that like this era are just new fans that don't know anything about the show, because there are some that have stuck it out no matter what. But yeah, they can't stand on the shoulders of that small group. It's just not going to work. Ratings have shown it in the steady drop, actually plummet is more like. It is shown in the fact that Doctor Who magazine with her on the cover doesn't sell. Doctor Who comics with her featured doesn't sell. Doctor Who memorabilia, sonic screwdriver, little dolls, whatever it is featuring the 13th Doctor, that era, doesn't sell. Like nobody wants it. Nobody. So, yeah. But that aside, the bigger issue that they seem to finally come to understand is that their biggest mistake was the fact that they were trying to go with what was trendy. They brought some. We don't know who the new executive producer is going to be, who's going to be in charge, the show runner. We don't have that answer yet. But the information that the BBC has put out so far is that, at least to the writers, is that they just want them to write Doctor Who. Don't try to use trends as a through line to the episode plots. Don't try to pander. Don't try to go with agendas. Just write fucking Doctor Who. And that, I think, tells me that whatever showrunner comes in is going to have to go with what the BBC wants. And if the BBC is done with the bullshit and wants the show to get back to where it was before it's completely and totally destroyed, that gives me some hope that the BBC has seen their mistakes and they know it needs to be fixed, because if they don't fix it, right now it's on its last legs. And if they don't do something quickly to fix it properly, it will die. I'm of the mind that I certainly would not mind right now if the show took an extended hiatus. And I'm not talking about just for a year. I'm talking about it needs to rest for a couple of years. Maybe not necessarily as long as it did after the show was originally canceled in 1989, but I mean, some years to really get back to basics and really find a good group of people, producers, directors, writers, and actors who know and understand what this show needs to be and what this show means to the fans. If they can go with that and the BBC is true to their word about just write Doctor Who, no more bullshit, then there is a smattering of hope that we might actually be able to save this our poor dying show. But first and foremost, I know a lot of TV reporters are saying they should leave Timeless Child alone, not bother with it. Just let it go, and whatever happens in Series 14 happens. No. They broke so much with the Timeless Children storyline. If it's not fixed, it will permanently alter the landscape of the series forever. It broke Regeneration Cycle. It broke the Doctor as a character. I mean, at this point, he's not only is he not a Time Lord anymore, he's no longer Gallifreyan because apparently he was adopted from some other unknown realm. Yeah, no. No. Okay, look. I know that this show has played fast and loose with canon in the past. I get that they've added some things and taken away some things without explanation, but it was usually always something minor that didn't have an extreme effect on the show as an overall whole. And there were always rules that were set in place. Once those rules were set in place, they were not broken. The 12 regeneration rule has been in place for decades. Decades! I mean, okay, adding or taking away some bits and bobs from the TARDIS console is one thing, but going and saying that the Doctor is no longer the Gallifreyan and is from some unknown realm and was adopted outside of a portal by Tecteun and then repeatedly murdered and to better understand his or her, it's their ability to regenerate, basically continuously tortured so that they could use their genetic code to implant into Gallifreyans in order to give them longevity and basically build their entire society from there. Like, really? Really? If Chris Chibnall was attempting to bring more mystery to the Doctor's existence with this storyline, that is an incredible failure because there are no more questions to answer now. Everything is out in the open. The Doctor's no longer Gallifreyan. The Doctor's not a Time Lord. The Doctor can regenerate infinitely. All the questions that you ever have about him are completely answered. So, okay, the Doctor is Space Jesus. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. If the BBC can keep to their word, hopefully, cross fingers, we might have a reasonable chance of salvaging what's left of this show before it's destroyed completely. Cross fingers, hopefully. I would imagine that sometime in 2022, because I know Series 13, I'm pretty sure is done production. They're probably in post-production at this point, and I know that the series is likely to debut September, October-ish, something like that. All leading up to the two specials, and then her regenerating in the New Year special. And then 2022 is not going to be anything. It's going to be a hiatus, and then it's going to pick up in 2023, likely with Series 14, and then of course the 60th anniversary special that November. There's not a lot of information about the 60th anniversary, although some YouTube people in the fandom have theorized the possibility that they might make this into a legacy one where it doesn't even star her, that it stars another Doctor from the new era, a much more popular Doctor that people would come to watch, aka David Tennant, because everybody loves David Tennant. I would rather cross fingers and hope for Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant together, because that is a combination that is perfection. I would give anything to see those two together on screen, both playing the Doctors at the same time. I would literally like fall out of my chair. It was awesome enough just having Chris come back to do the Big Finish audios, and I know he's still a little bit sketchy about actually coming back to the show itself, like on TV. So it might take a little more convincing, but baby steps, baby steps. We're getting there. David is not a problem. David, of course, would do it anytime, anywhere, any place, as long as the script was, good. I wouldn't even mind Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi being there, but Peter Capaldi is vociferously busy. So, especially now that he's just done Suicide Squad, so he's kind of promoting that. Matt Smith, I know he's doing some things. So they would have to make sure it was the right time for all the actors if they really want to bring them together. But still, crossing fingers that Christopher Eccleston gets to make an appearance. Anyway. But really, if you ask me, my personal opinion only, this is just moi, Wolf and Storm here. If they were going to do a 60th anniversary special, I would want it to be in the alternate universe, or in the parallel universe with the Metacrisis Doctor and Rose, because there would be no problem explaining David Tennant and Billie Piper aging, because the Doctor in that universe is partially human and can age properly. So I would love to see a special involving them. That would be awesome sauce to me, because I think a lot of fans want to know what happened to Rose and the Metacrisis Doctor. I certainly do. I've been waiting for that for years, probably more than a decade. So yeah. So really, right now it's all kind of speculation. No one really knows for sure. But the only thing we can say with 100% accuracy is that Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker are gone after season 13 is over. Thank God. Maybe there can be some salvaging left if we are lucky. David Tennant news. I know for 100% certainty that Around the World in 80 Days is complete. So that should be airing on TV in the UK sometime in the fall. I think November. So when that comes out, we will watch and review that. It looks quite good. I know that David has got himself a new series on Netflix. It's kind of a suspense thriller type of thing. No, he's not playing the bad guy for once. He always tends to play bad guys, but no, not in this one. There's not a lot of information on it, but it looks interesting. Although it likely will not be out till maybe late this year, early next. Other than that, I know they're not doing another stage, because the whole idea of lockdown, it's kind of past, and we're not as locked down as we were, so they really can't justify the excuse. It would be great to see another series of staged, but oh well, that's not going to happen. However, I do know for those of you who have been on the unbound.com website, if you have contributed to that startup, I do know for a fact that the book has not only been gone to print, it is now going out for delivery. When I look at the website, it says the book is supposed to be delivered August of this year. However, because of world stuff that's going on, a lot of deliveries have been delayed. I haven't gotten my book or poster yet. I don't know if anybody else has received anything, because I would have seen that on Twitter, people taking pictures of all the stuff that they got and posting it, and no one's posted anything yet. So I know the stuff is ready, and I'm reasonably certain that they probably have mailed some of it out. It just probably, because of postal issues, has been delayed somewhat. And I'm also in the States, so I wouldn't get it as quick as the people that ordered it from the UK. But when I do get it, we will show that off, of course. We'll do an unboxing with that one. But yeah, other than some voice work that David's done, he hasn't really done a whole lot of work. But I believe he is preparing for that new Netflix series. And that's about it for David. I will keep you guys abreast of whatever he's doing next. Oh. Bigger news for David. I almost forgot. Big news. Neil Gaiman has finally come out and approved Good Omens Season 2. So they are in post-production for Good Omens Season 2. I don't know what the story is going to be about, because Good Omens is only ever one book. So we will see. I'm sure that Neil Gaiman will be intimately involved in writing that script. We know that David Tennant is back again, of course, as Crowley. Michael Sheen is back as Aziraphale. I don't know about the rest of the cast, playing the angels and the Witchfinder and his witchy girlfriend. I don't know how many of the cast is going to be there. I just know for certain that David Tennant and Michael Sheen will be returning. Of course, I will give you updates as we get them. And now, on to the bigger stuff. This video is primarily going to be a review of Christopher Eccleston's Big Finish debut. His first box set. He's got 4 box sets. And so far, 2 of them are out. I've only listened to the first box set of 3 stories. I have the second box set on the Big Finish app on my phone. I just haven't gotten to it. Like I said, I've been so busy with this move. I kind of had to put fandom stuff on hold. But I have listened to the first set of 3 stories, and I've also listened to Out of Time Part 2, which is a continuation of the Out of Time series of stories. Now, the first one was a meetup between the 4th Doctor and the 10th Doctor, and the second one, Out of Time Part 2, is a meetup between the 5th Doctor and the 10th. So, we will start with Out of Time Part 2. This was interesting, because I know it's always a treat for David to be able to work with Daddy-in-law, with Peter Davison. They don't get to do it often. As a matter of fact, Peter Davison's done a lot of Big Finish audios, but as for actually working with David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, this is probably, I think, the first time they actually have done. So, I have to say, it was a really rare treat to have them together. Because not only are they both doctors, but they're families, and it really shows in how they mesh in the story. It's very smooth, it's very easy, it's affectionate, it's easy for them because they're so familiar. So that you have as a big plus right off the top. So in this story, it's at first takes place in the 1700s in France. And the 5th Doctor is there on a tour. Or he's there and he gets trapped in the catacombs. Back then it was called the catacombs. And frozen somehow in time for 200 years. For someone like the Doctor, this is not a big deal. Worse shit has happened to him before. So if he's out of commission for 200 years, it's normal. At the same time that this is happening for him back then, 200 years later, in 1943, the 10th Doctor is in France again, in Paris, occupied Paris, which at the time was occupied by the Nazis. The resistance was there, but this was Vichy France, occupied by the Nazis. He's there on a tour of the catacombs, of the sewers, catacombs. And, of course, as he's wont to do, he wanders off and comes to a door. A door. You gotta love the 10th Doctor and doors, right? He goes through the door, because why wouldn't he? Because he's the Doctor and he's curious. And he finds himself paralyzed, frozen. He manages to release the 5th Doctor And now I don't know if the Fifth Doctor remembers meeting up with the 10th Doctor in Time Crash. I think because of the way temporal mechanics went down, he might have forgotten it. Although he says that he remembers it happening as it happened. The 10th Doctor knew to do all these things because he remembered being there as the Fifth Doctor, as this was happening. It's very weird to explain, but anyway. So he might, I think he does in some way remember the 10th Doctor. They get on quite well. Their relationship is at times snarky, it's kind of affectionate, but it's almost as if it's like David and Peter were on this adventure instead of the two doctors, because they're so casual and intimate with each other in the story, since they're family, you know. So it was very easy to listen to, and it's quite funny. Actually, their humor and how they play off of each other is great. But they're also very good at getting dark when they need to. That's one facet of the 5th and 10th Doctors which hasn't changed. They're very good with being serious when it's required. So ultimately, this story is wrapped around the Cybermen. I'm not entirely sure which version of the Cybermen that these are. I know these aren't Cybus Industries Cybermen, because that's Parallel Earth. So I'm going to guess that these Cybermen are more along the lines of maybe the ones from the 12th Doctor's era. Kind of close to Cybus, sort of. Apparently, in the 1700s, they arrived there, and they wanted to take over the Earth, but they did not have the technology at the time. So what they did was they somehow mentally and emotionally convinced this young man, who I guess was an underappreciated second son, who didn't have very many prospects. His father was well off, and the son could have been well off, but, you know, because he was second son, or because he kind of had his head in the clouds a little bit, very science-minded, and his father had aspirations for him that he wanted to follow, but this guy didn't want to do those things. He was very independent, and a bit of a disappointment. So they used that vulnerability to convince him to work with them, thinking he could prove to his father that he could be a success and that he could be proud of him. So what they did was they gave him some sort of way to stay young so that he would never age, and then he could live as long as they needed him to live, because they wanted to do this thing, but because it was in the 1700s, the technology at the time was not feasible, so they wanted to wait until technology grew a little more. It's kind of like the Sontarans, when they were trying, or no, not the Sontarans, the Zygons, in Day of the Doctor, when they were trying to invade the Earth, but they came way, way a long time ago in the 1500s, where the technology just was not there for it to be feasible, so they had to wait in that painting until it was the right time frame. What they didn't count on was the Doctor showing up, running around the catacombs, and getting himself frozen in time. And they also didn't count on the 10th Doctor showing up later on. So the 10th Doctor frees the 5th Doctor, and he has to explain to him exactly what happened and why he got stuck in there and what they're up against. Because he knows that it's a Cyberman thing. The Cybermen were after him in those tunnels, and they're the ones that sealed him up in there. And the 10th Doctor's like, Cybermen? What? Huh? What? No, you gotta be kidding. But you would think that the 10th Doctor would remember this happening. I mean, this is his past self, so he should remember this having happened. Anyhow, so they come across the guy from the 1700s who's still alive in the 1940s, and the Cybermen think it's the perfect time for them to take over. They want to use the world's vulnerability because the world is in a very vulnerable state. They're in the middle of a world war. They're trying to kill each other. It's a volatile place, and they think it's just the right state for them to use the world's and humanity's vulnerability to take advantage of it and take over. So, long story short, the 5th Doctor and the 10th Doctor have to work together to ensure that this does not happen. The young man, as he is in the 1940s, has been alive for so long that his mind has been like really corrupted, and there's not much they can do to save him. The woman that's giving them the tour, she seems like a nice one-off companion, but then she gets kind of shelved from the story a little bit when there's a massive explosion, and you're not sure if she's alive or dead until the very end. I don't like that. I don't like fridging characters for nothing other than shock value. But I understand why they did it, because they really wanted to center the story on just the 2 Doctors, and that was definitely a good idea. Any other companions that would have been there for any length of time would have just gotten in the way of the dynamic. So it was excellent. So they did eventually manage to stop the Cybermen, and then they went back to the past, and they realized they kept the Cybermen from doing any damage in the 40s, but they realized if they were going to keep this going, that they were going to make sure that this never happened. They were going to have to go back to the 1700s, to 1743, and confront this man directly before he starts even doing this. They're going to have to sit down and talk to him and get him to understand that whatever he's thinking about doing before the Cybermen could influence him is wrong, and that he needs to stop. Because if he doesn't, that it's going to destroy the whole world. So they do go back. They manage to find him, and they sit him down and they talk to him. He's not receptive at first, but you can tell as they talk to him that he just wants to be loved by his father. He wants his father to recognize him. He wants his father's approval so badly that he's willing to do something very stupid to get it. Even though his father dies as a result at the hands of the Cybermen. When his father dies at the Cybermen's hand, he realizes that this is wrong. That the Cybermen are not the answer to what he wants. They managed to convince him, and they destroy the Cybermen in 1743. So when you get to 1943, there's no Cybermen. They managed to stop it. So that's pretty much the gist of the story, and it is really, really very good. It's a treat to have Peter Davison and David Tennant together. It's rare, and I do hope that they will do more work together as a team, because they are phenomenal when they are in the same place. As evidence, if any of you have seen Time Crash, they are absolutely great. Their chemistry is off the charts. So I definitely do not mind seeing them together. I actually think David Tennant has great chemistry with any of the Doctors, honestly, because he's David Tennant. And he's just like that. But I would definitely not mind seeing them have more work together for Big Finish in the future. So if you have the opportunity to go on to Big Finish's website, please do order Out of Time Part 1, 2, and 3. Next year, we will be seeing Out of Time Part 3 drop. This is the 10th Doctor's adventure with the 6th Doctor, having to do with the Weeping Angels. I don't know the exact details of the story, but the Weeping Angels are always suspenseful, so let's see what they shall do next. Hopefully they won't give them any really ridiculous powers that they don't need to have, like Moffat did. Just keep it basic, keep it simple, keep it scary. That's what made them so great at first. Moving on, now we are going to the 9th Doctor's first set of stories. First set of 3 stories. I have to tell you, it was a thrill to order this package because Christopher Eccleston means a lot to me. He was my gateway into the Doctor Who world. I had not watched classic. I was aware of the 4th Doctor, of course. I knew who who he was. And I was actually a Doctor Who fan, but because I live in the States, it was very difficult to come by, especially in the wilderness years. And unless you take to watching a great deal of like PBS late night, you don't really get those repeats a lot. So that was pretty much all you would get unless you ordered video cassettes from the UK. As I said in my previous videos, my real gateway into Doctor Who was the movie in 1996 with Paul McGann. That's why those three particular doctors are my favorites, because they were the ones that brought me into the series proper. Paul McGann was my first Doctor. Eccleston was my gateway Doctor because he brought me into the series. And David Tennant is the Doctor of my heart. Always, always, he will be my Doctor. Really, both of them. But trust me, if they came out with a series just for Paul McGann, I would cry because he deserves it. He was really shafted to only get Big Finish audios, and he's really blossomed with the Big Finish audios. I think that's some of his best work, and he is literally he is the longest lived Doctor, because he went from 1996 all the way to 2005, just doing the movie and audios. I think he didn't really get his due until the Night of the Doctor, and what he did in 7 minutes for that character was more than Stephen Moffat did in 7 years. He was just incredible, and I wish that they would give him a series of his own that kind of leads up to the beginning of the Time War. I think it would be phenomenal. But anyway, back to Chris. I was really very sad when Chris left. I'm not going to get into the controversies of him leaving, because everybody knows about that stuff, and that really doesn't make a difference. But we have been trying to get Chris to come back to the series for years, in any capacity, whether it be going to cons or Big Finish audios, just anything. But he's had some personal life issues that he had to deal with, which is understandable. I would never begrudge someone for having to deal with some mental health problems and you know, stepping back and wanting to take care of themselves. That's important, self-care. So all issues with BBC upper authority aside, he had some mental health problems that he needed to deal with, and he dealt with them, and now he's in a much better, much more positive place. And that has enabled him to open himself much more to the fandom as a whole. He started going to sci-fi cons, and because of it, it wasn't necessarily just Nick Briggs trying to sweet talk him. That was part of it, but it was more so the love he received and the care and the joy from the fans when they saw that he was there, knowing that even though all this time has passed and that he was only there for 1 year, but still they have loved him for so long, and they continue to do so, that he is still very much wanted, very much loved, and very much missed. So I think that is a big part of what convinced him to come back. Now, he has said that he's not really interested in doing the television show, although I'm still going to cross fingers and hope we can get him for the special, for the anniversary, because that's a big deal. He turned it down the first time only because he said the script was weak, and that he didn't want it to be an hour and 10 minutes of three doctors bickering. He wanted there to be more to it. I understand where he's coming from. He's one of those serious actor types that really looks for a good story, like a strong plot. And he's not all about stupid humor. So I can understand why he was hesitant. And also, he wasn't at the right place in his life at that point to involve himself in such a big deal, because it would have brought a lot of publicity to his life that I think at that point he wasn't ready to deal with yet. But now that he's in a better place, who knows, cross fingers, hopefully. But this is a really great start. He has done 4 box sets, 3 stories each, so it's basically a full season. Now, I know the big question going into this was, at what point does this take place? Because the Ninth Doctor's life is kind of set, finite beginning and a very finite end. But there is a teeny bit where these stories can fit towards the beginning. There's two places where this can fit. One, before he met Rose, and two, in that tiny period of time after he met Rose, but before he came back and told her it also travels in time. Because we don't know exactly how long he was gone. To her, he was only gone for like 60 seconds. But as a time traveler, he could have been gone for an infinite amount of time. So he could very well have gone on all these adventures while that happened. We don't know. But from what Nick Briggs has said, like 95%, I'm pretty certain that these adventures take place before he has met Rose. And it's interesting the way that I think that Chris has chosen to play the Doctor in this, because you would have thought he'd be more dark. Because he didn't, when the show first started, he was very dark. He was in a bad place, mentally, emotionally. He was living on survivor's guilt, barely even existing, until he met her. But for some reason, Chris has chosen to play the nice doctor in these stories a little bit lighter than what we're normally used to, which I think was an interesting call. I expected it to be way darker because it was before he met Rose, but I guess he wanted to go in a different direction. So this story takes place in the future on an alien planet, and it's basically a pleasure planet. It's completely populated, very high tech, and it's the big part about it is like this big pleasure dome thing. There's food, TV, games. It's almost like Satellite 5, only on a planet instead of in the sky. And it's not just 500 channels of TV that keeps getting broadcast. It's all bunches of things. So once he gets there, actually, the first story starts in a weird way. It starts off with the action already occurring. You know how sometimes on TV they'll start an episode with the main character getting into trouble or getting held up by a gun or somebody dying, and then the next scene is 24 hours previously? This is kind of what they were trying to do for this one. When I pressed play on my phone to start it, it immediately went into this woman running for the TARDIS, and the doctor, calling to her, yelling to her to get inside before she got hurt. And I was like, wait a minute, did I accidentally move the thing to start way too far in or something? And I was confused. I was like, what? This doesn't sound right. Until I realized that it actually starts maybe a day in, and then a couple minutes after, it goes back to the beginning of the events. You would think it would benefit from a 24 hours previously. So there's a woman named Nova, and she's running for the TARDIS. Obviously the doctor knows, I guess, who this woman is, and he is calling to her because she's about to get swallowed up by a time eddy. And he's trying to get her into the TARDIS, and she just misses getting into the TARDIS and gets swallowed up by this eddy. And then another woman comes into the TARDIS. He doesn't know who she is necessarily, but she's there. She apparently works on the planet that he was on. She's the one that's in charge of the entire place, although he doesn't realize it at first. So 24 hours previously, he touches down there, just meaning to pass by, have a good time, check the place out, maybe chill out a little bit, eat some good food, play some games, just not do anything. Just kind of have some fun. Holiday. And he meets a young woman who works there. She works in the kitchens. It's not a very good job. The pay is shit. They don't treat their employees well at all. There's lots of employees. All of them work for this company that basically runs this pleasure dome. And there are no other jobs but to work for this company in various aspects, either as technical or food preparation, running the games, whatever is required. They live on site, but their living arrangements are subpar at best. They are constantly belittled and treated like garbage, and they are paid hardly anything. So she would like to see more of the universe and travel, which, hey, you already passed the Doc's companion test just by wanting to be off your planet. So already he kind of likes her because she's different. Everyone else just works and works and works and doesn't think about anything else. I mean, they don't like it, but they don't see anything else in their purview but the work. She has dreams and desires and wants and things she wants to do with her life, but she knows that because she was stuck working for this company, she's probably never going to get there. Now, the doctors followed some sort of transmission that has brought him there. He's followed this energy signature of some sort that's brought him to this planet. And he's going into the catacombs underneath that surround the pleasure dome where all of the electronics are kept, because he wants to figure out where this transmission is coming from, where this energy reading is coming from, because he believes it's dangerous. Now he meets the girl first, and then she follows him, even though he doesn't want her to follow him. She follows him anyway, and she winds up being a pretty good help to him. And I like her because she calls him out on his shit, which is something that the Doctor invariably needs, someone to call him out on his bullshit. Especially at this point in his life where he's running around willy-nilly and not really giving a damn what happens to him. He definitely needs someone to make him stop. But I should preface this to say that he is in no way, shape, or form intending to take on any permanent companions at this time. He very much is plain when he says that to her. I'm not traveling with anyone. I don't want to travel with anyone. I don't mind you helping me out, but that's it. After this, bye-bye. He's not ready yet to go that far, not till he meets Rose. So, she's not sure whether to trust him at first, because he's unlike anybody that she's ever met, of course, because he's the Doctor, right? And she's trying to figure out what the hell it is he's doing. But she actually, even though she works in the food service industry, she's actually very technically minded. She's very smart, very sciencey. So she knows more about the technical aspects of what goes on with the servers than he does, actually, because he's not been to that planet. But she lives there. She's lived there her whole life. So she's actually kind of a tech person. And he's wondering, why didn't she just get a job doing that? But so he allows her to stay because she could be a benefit to him, to help him with this. And I think she kind of likes her. She's an interesting person, and she's got a good sense of humor, and she keeps him in check, which he kind of needs. She's not someone who wastes his time, because that Christopher's version of the Doctor, you say the wrong thing even once, he's not going to talk to you again. He'll be like, you just wasted my time, and like what happened in Bad Wolf, you just lost the right to talk to me. He's very snappy when it comes to that shit. If he doesn't like what you say, even the first time, bye. So she was lucky to be able to ingratiate herself with him. So they figure out that this transmission is coming from a device, and he's not entirely sure what the device is. However, the energy coming from it and what it's able to do, creating these time eddies, because by the end of the story, a time eddy is created. And that's where it picks up. What happens at the very beginning of the first story is actually where the second story picks up at the beginning, where Nova is running after the TARDIS trying to save herself, and she gets stuck in an eddy. The girl that was helping him stays on the planet, but Nova gets stuck in that time eddy thing. So he only knows of one source of energy that could create temporal distortions of that nature. And he realizes that it's Gallifreyan, although how, he has no idea because Gallifrey is gone. And the only explanation, which is kind of mirrors what happened in Dalek Universe Part 1, is that when the Time War was at its height and before the Doctor was able to seal it off in the time bubble, that a lot of debris from passing Gallifreyan ships and cruisers and Dalek ships fell to Earth. That was the reason why that one Dalek fell to Earth and landed in Utah that we saw in the episode Dalek in season 1. Lots of different things wound up on Earth that weren't supposed to be there, or wound up on different planets that weren't supposed to be there as a result of the Time War, cosmic space jump. And apparently this device, or whatever it was, is giving off the energy signature, fell possibly from a Gallifreyan ship or battle cruiser and landed on the planet. And now they're trying to use its energy. But they don't understand how the energy works. They can't possibly understand it. Only the Time Lords can. The Doctor already knows that this is dangerous. At the beginning of the second one, Nova gets caught up in the time eddy and transported to another planet, where she's surrounded by these robots. It's like kind of tropical and lush, and it's not necessarily dangerous, but the robots are, because they are programmed immediately when they see anyone that is not 100% perfect to their specifications. They have to fix the abnormalities in the person to make them perfect. If that means removing organs or killing someone to fix them, they will do so, or wiping their mind and replacing their memories with something else. So she has to outrun these robots to ensure her mind doesn't get wiped, she doesn't get killed, and she has no way to communicate with the Doctor whatsoever. So it's kind of divided between that and what the Doctor's doing on the planet, trying to figure out this box. So he's got his hands on this box. He and the girl, they are walking up the street, and they come to this plaza, and the woman that's in charge of the whole, of the pleasure dome, she walks up to him because she knows that he's got the box. And she talks to him, and they get into it, and then he winds up getting arrested. But while they're talking, some weird time distortion happens, where she can hear his voice, but it's out of time, like it's not in the present, it's somewhere in the future, possibly. She doesn't know what to make of it. Only she can hear it. So they bring the Doctor and the girl back with them to wherever her office is, and they of course question him, just like always happens when he gets into trouble. And he tries to tell them, of course, just like he always does, you cannot mess with this box. This is energy that you don't understand, and you're going to use it for the wrong reasons, and people are going to get hurt. It belongs to my people. I need to take it back. Of course, she will listen to him, blah, blah, blah. So the time distortions keep getting worse. Like, she can keep hearing snippets of conversation that she hasn't yet had with him. She's not sure if it's past or future or what. But she knows it's him because she recognizes his voice. And she's trying to figure out how exactly it is that she can be so aware of him. And apparently because he's standing near this thing, it's not only causing time distortions for her, but it's causing him to kind of be off kilter a little bit, because it's messing with his time senses and temporal mechanics, being that Gallifreyans are temporal creatures. So it's kind of messing with his metabolism a little. So it's hard for him to think straight when he's near this thing. So he has to be very careful when he examines it. So apparently it turns out that this conversation that she was having with the Doctor took place in the past. When she was probably about 30 years in the past, when she was, or 20 years in the past when she was younger. She never actually saw his face, she only heard his voice. And she was trying to develop some sort of technology in order to stop an enemy that was going to destroy the planet. And he kept trying to tell her that it wasn't a good idea and that she was only going to make things worse. Because her using this energy was causing all these time eddies and rifts to open and causing all these, like, creatures and things to appear out of nowhere. There's a point at which the Doctor is in present day London, 70s, 60s London, and he has to deal with unit soldiers who are fighting a contingent of Roman centurions because this woman from the future keeps ripping these time eddies open, and it's swallowing people up from different time periods and transporting them in different places. So the time eddy opens up, grabs the centurions and brings them to modern day London, and the unit soldiers have no idea what to do. All they know to do is to defend the country from attack. They see that the Roman centurions have weapons, be it spears and swords, which are no match for the unit soldiers' guns and tanks and things. But they still, their soldiers are trained to go to war. So that's what they do. And the Doctor's like, are you fucking kidding me? They can't stand up to you. The only reason you're doing this is because they're scared. They're in an unknown place, an unknown time. They don't know what they're doing. This is not a fair fight. Stand down. Let me figure this out. Send them back to where they need to be so nobody gets hurt. But of course, the leader, the soldiers, doesn't want to hear it. Now, the Doctor does manage to talk down the Roman centurions, but then the unit soldiers do some stupid shit and wind up spooking the Roman centurions, and it gets all, That's when he realizes he's going to have to go back to that pleasure planet and fix this, because it's all just messed some shit up. The Roman centurion, the lead one, and the leader of the unit group come with him. I think one of them is unconscious and the other one's trying to care for him. So, yeah, the Roman centurion is trying to care for the unit guy who's unconscious. So, they're both on board. He takes him to the pleasure planet, trying to figure out how to stop this energy. And then it shifts back to the past, at least for the future past, where the woman who's in charge of the pleasure planet is younger and she's developing this technology that starts the time eddy problem. And because she started the time eddy problem, she allowed these creatures to come through to their world, to their planet. Now, she thought that the energy given off by the box would help destroy the creatures, but what she didn't realize is she was actually making it happen. Originally she wanted to use the energy to make money, basically, for the pleasure dome. She was greedy. She wanted to make money. But then when she realized what it was doing to the planet, then she started to research more and more and more and more to figure out how she was going to be able to fix it. But she couldn't fix it. In the end, the Doctor is the one that has to fix it. By the end of the third story, he does manage to fix it. Now, the woman that is in charge of the pleasure dome comes off as a real bitch at first, but her bitterness is mitigated by the fact that she feels like the Doctor abandoned her. Even though he was there when she was younger, although only with his voice, she had hoped that he would help her to do this right, and she feels like he abandoned her in some way, or led her astray, or didn't tell her everything that she needed to know. So she has this anger towards him. But then when she realizes that her planet's going to get destroyed because of what she's doing, that she needs to put that anger aside and she's got to help him. So by the end of the 3 stories, he manages to rescue Nova from the tropical planet. He brings her on board. So you got the girl, you got Nova, you got the lady that's in charge of the pleasure dome, the Roman centurion, and the unit soldier. They're all there together and they're all trying to figure this out. Roman soldier's freaking out because he ain't never seen anything like this before in his life. The unit guy is a little more subdued because he's unit, and they know who the doctor is. So they're a little bit used to that. So he really has got to talk the Roman soldier down to get him to stop being so freaked out. But the bigger thing is getting this woman who's in charge of the Pleasure Dome to stop what she's doing before she destroys the entire universe. Because the eddies are literally ripping the universe apart. And it's causing time itself to implode. So, of course, the Doctor has to use the TARDIS in some nifty, neat way, and he's able to stop all the bad stuff from happening. And satisfying ending. He stops the time. Eddie's, the lady that's in charge of the Pleasure Dome manages to change her tune. She realizes that what she's done was wrong, and she is doing everything she can now to make life better for the employees, because she realizes she's treated them badly and they didn't deserve it. The girl, even though he's given her the opportunity, he said that if she wanted to go for a few travels, that he would take her on a few trips, but she's decided that she wants to stay there and work. I don't know why, but she feels like she wants to help this woman to make the planet a better place. Nova stays there too. He returns the unit soldier back to London and the Centurions back to Rome, where they belong. And everything turns out just fine. I thought it was it had a confusing start at first, but once you figure out what's going on, which is about 5 minutes in, it goes pretty quick from there. And Christopher Eccleston, what can I say? He's a joy. An absolute joy. There's nothing better than hearing Christopher Eccleston's voice in a Big Finish video that is not being faked by somebody else. That's actually Christopher Eccleston. Such a joy. He's awesome as always. It's like he just put that role on like it was nothing. He slipped back into it as if he had never been gone at all. It's like a second skin, and I am so thrilled that he's there. I am excited to listen to the next box set. It's called Respond to All Calls. There's 3 more stories in there. The trailer for that is definitely out on YouTube if you'd like to watch it. I'll post a little ting up there in the corner so you guys can see. The trailer looks really good. I'm hoping that this next set of stories is good, but if Christopher Eccleston's in it, how could it not be good? The side characters weren't annoying. They were actually, their characterization was fleshed out. It was round. Their comeuppance, whether negative or positive, was earned. It wasn't something that was just shoehorned in, like the thing with the woman who was in charge of the planet. She started off wanting to do something good. Well, actually, no, she started off being greedy, but then she wanted to do something good, and she turned her life around. It was a very believable arc. The girl that helped him in the beginning, I liked her. Nova was a little bit one note. She didn't have a whole lot of development. I would have liked to have seen some more from her, but that's one of the issues with Doctor Who as a whole, that if you have too many side characters, invariably 1 or 2 of those characters is going to be shunted to the side and not always get the development that they need. Of course, yes, that happens to some of the characters in the stories. But the characters that need the development get it. They're not a hindrance. They're there to help him. They do their job. They're, as a group, they all play off of each other very well. There's humor in there. There's action. There's quite a few tense moments in the second and third story that really speak to Christopher's strengths when he plays the Doctor, and I surely to God hope to see more of it. So I will definitely put links in the description to the Big Finish website if you guys are interested in ordering that set. But it's been available for order for a while now, so if you haven't gotten it by now, why have you not? Anyway, I've been going on for a while, so I think that is it for me. Those are my reviews, and I will see you guys soon. As soon as I listen to Respond to All Calls, I will have a review for that. I don't know much else what I can say because there isn't really a lot of Doctor Who news per se, and it's dead in the middle of the summer, so there's not a lot of TV news, period. Probably until end of September, beginning of October, so kind of in a lull. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed the review. I will be back at it here as soon as I have the opportunity to listen to the next box set. I have a job now, an actual job, so, and my kids are going back to school in a couple of days, so, you know, I'm not as home as much as I once was. I'm busy now, I have a life. So I will do the best I can to listen to that as soon as I can when I have the time. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the review. Peace out.
Good night.